Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of Video Guys Live. We have a very special guest joining us today. Before we get into that, I do want to just say if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube right now, make sure to follow us on Facebook or give us a subscribe on YouTube because we do these weekly shows every Tuesday at 3 p.m. talking about new and exciting equipment coming out. And NAB is right around the corner. So we thought with some new products coming out from Atomos that we would invite John Restivo from Atomos to come on to our show to talk about new and exciting Ninjas and even the Shogun AV. Hey, John, how are you doing today?
I'm good, James. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. So, like I said, NAB is right around the corner. It is going to be at the end of next month. And if you want to see any of the Ninjas or the AV Shogun, the Shogun AV in person, John, where can they check you out?
Yeah, definitely stop by our Atomos booth. We're in the Central Hall. I think you had the number up there, but our products are meant to be seen in person, right? It's nice to do these shows, but when we have all our displays, the brightness, we're playing reels, you can come and you can actually do the camera controls, touch focus, um, play with the touch screen. I'll be there at the camera booth, so definitely come check us out.
All of that fun stuff. And speaking of camera control, we're talking about a whole line of new Ninjas that have been coming out. All of these are in stock and available now at Video Guys. The Ninja Raw, the Ninja TX Go, and the Ninja TX. Can you introduce the new or expanded Ninja family line?
Yeah, absolutely. So, everyone who's already familiar with Atomos as a leading brand for monitors, recorders, we now have three new actual build monitors, the Ninja Raw, the Ninja TX Go, and the Ninja TX. Now, what's nice is all three of these monitors share the same HDR touchscreen 1500 nit display. Um, all three of them have Apple ProRes RAW recording. They all have H.265. There's a lot of features that they share with the touch focus, with camera controls, with the new CFexpress, the um, the new fan that's kind of built in, just a lot of features. So, but we can go over the differences too between them as well.
Absolutely.
But really, you can't go wrong with picking either one of these.
Yeah, and we're gonna do exactly that. So starting
Yeah.
off with the Ninja Raw, which is the newest addition to the family. Can you tell us what the Ninja Raw is for?
Yeah, so I would frame the Ninja Raw as someone who's maybe an individual camera owner operator, right? And they just want to have their, let's just call it a Sony FX2 that has HDMI. This is an HDMI monitor recorder. So right out the gate, when you boot it up, it has ProRes RAW, it has DNX, it has H.265. So really the Ninja Raw is for someone who's going to be recording and monitoring in an HDMI camera workflow.
That is fantastic. And then we start in talking about the Ninja TX Go, which adds the Wi-Fi antennas. What are some of the added benefits of you adding those Wi-Fi antennas?
Right. So when you get to the Ninja TX Go, it's still an HDMI only monitor, right? That's something also that you should note. But this has the ability to shoot up to 6K in ProRes RAW. This added feature of the Wi-Fi 6 antennas enable you to do camera to cloud. So sending files up to H.265 proxy files up to the
Mhm.
cloud. So you can use Atmosphere, um, which is our service. You can also use Frame.io and Dropbox. Another thing you get with the Wi-Fi 6 antennas is the ability to do NDI. So you can transmit and receive NDI with the Wi-Fi 6 antennas.
And that is fantastic. If our viewers know that we here at Video Guys are big fans of NDI, we know that this was added with Atomos Connect, and
Yes.
we love to see it in the Ninja TX Go and the Ninja TX with the Wi-Fi antennas built in.
Yes.
Speaking of the Ninja TX, this is essentially the flagship Ninja currently available. Can you tell us about some of the added benefits of the Ninja TX?
Right. So all the features that we had in the previous monitors, this also has CFexpress. This is camera control. It has focus peaking, right? Vector scopes, everything like that. What we have in the Ninja TX as our flagship monitor is the 12G SDI in and out. So when you're working with the more higher end cinema cameras that have SDI, we do file naming as well. So if you have a an FX9 or a Red camera or an Arri and you're doing camera to cloud, you're getting file naming. So they're matching the proxy and the original camera file. This has the Bluetooth connection as well for AirGlue. So you can use timecode. So if you have multiple cameras, you can sync timecode through that. And the Ninja TX also has the ability for 8K ProRes RAW recording. So if you really want to future proof your workflow of what camera you're using, whether it's HDMI or SDI, doing cloud, the Ninja TX is for you, really.
That is great to hear. Yeah, we really do have a good, better, best kind of workflow when it comes with all of the current Ninjas.
That's
We
right.
briefly talked about this, but all of the Ninjas have a lot of similarities. Can you
Yeah.
kind of walk us through this list and maybe pick out your favorite two or three things to mention that is across all of the new Ninjas?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but they all have right the same brightness. They're all 1500 nits. They're all HDMR touchscreen monitors. What I didn't touch on is the fact that they all have camera control through USB-C. So whether and we have that whole list online. If you go to the Atomos website, it's honestly too many cameras to list. But camera control enables you to have your ISO, your shutter, your aperture, and your white balance displayed on the actual Ninja screen as well. So instead of changing the settings on the camera, you can change them from the monitor. So they're really quick shortcuts. Um, they all three have the ability to record as well external drives through USB-C, and that input is on the back of all three of these monitors.
That is great. You mentioned briefly that you can go to the Atomos website and you can figure out which cameras are compatible with that touchscreen control. But you
Yes.
also, I just want to give a huge shout out to Atomos. You have a whole list of third-party accessories that you can find on your website for things that are compatible. One of the new lines that we added to the Video Guys line card is Oyen. And this is another feature that I don't know if we mentioned yet, but you have the ability to not only record to CFexpress cards, but you can also record to USB-C output out of all of the Ninjas as well. And you have a whole list of compatible drives that work with all of the Ninjas. So kudos to Atomos for doing that and making it super easy to figure out what is compatible with the current line of Ninjas. And you, like you said, are constantly adding more cameras, more accessories that are compatible with these devices. So kudos to Atomos.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, James. Exactly.
Of course. So once we start going up to the Ninja TX Go and the TX, we start adding some features. Can you walk us through the added features in the TX Go and then the TX?
Right. So some of the things that from the Ninja Raw that we're adding in the TX Go is the ability to have NDI, camera to cloud. It has the Wi-Fi 6 antennas. You won't have the ability to do air glue, right? So or SDI. So if you want those features, that's when you have to upgrade into the Ninja TX.
That is fantastic to hear. You really do have a Ninja for every kind of workflow available. And we talked about this as well, but can you go a little bit more into the front display of all of the Ninjas?
Yeah, so the front display on all three of these Ninjas is going to be identical, right? So they're all going to have that same brightness. They're all going to have the HDR touchscreen display. They're all going to have the camera control. And this is a nice slide because you can see where you can actually see your ISO, your f-stop, and your shutter angle or speed and white balance, right? All three of these are going to have your grids. You can use anamorphic de-squeeze. You can flip it. They have L-zone, one-to-one touch focus. You can zoom in. All three of them share that.
And that is great. And of course, if you are familiar with ninjas, you know that you get your frame guides, your focus peaking,
Right.
zebra stripes. All of those things are still in these Ninjas, features that we know and love from Atomos. Once we step up to the Ninja TX and the TX Go, that's when we can do some of these share capabilities, right? So can you talk
Right.
about, again, the Wi-Fi connectivity that are available in the TX Go and TX?
Right. So having the ability to have the Wi-Fi antennas, it enables you to have this kind of wireless mobile workflow where anywhere that you're on set with a Wi-Fi connection, enables you to do um, an NDI. You can enable NDI, TX, and RX, and you can do the camera to cloud features. So sending clips to Atmosphere, Frame.io, Dropbox. This is when you need the antennas with the TX Go and the TX.
That is great to hear. And again, just giving the customer the ability to choose what they need for their workflow. Now, let's start from the top again with the Ninja Raw, then the TX, and then, excuse me, the TX Go and the TX. Walk us through the back panes of all of the devices. Again, with the Ninja Raw, it's primarily a HDMI monitor and recorder, correct?
It is. But again, all the codecs are going to be pre-installed for this. So Ninja Raw within the name does do ProRes RAW, but so do all three of the monitors. But you are able to record ProRes RAW right out of the gate with this. And this is compatible with HDMI cameras only. It has the USB-C ports. One of them is for power. The other two are for accessories. So you can power a microphone off of them, or you can actually even charge your cell phone off it if you want to. You can also use it for recording, external recording.
That is great. And one of the other things that we were talking about before we went live here is you can actually use a USB to Ethernet adapter on the Ninja Raw to get some of those Connect features. Can you talk about that a
Yes.
little bit?
Yeah, that's right. So you can do the firmware upgrade through the USB-C port, one or two, with a Ethernet dongle. And I actually have one here I can show you. It's just USB-C to Ethernet. And that will enable you, you'll be tethered at that point, but you can do your firmware upgrades there. And you can also use some of the camera to cloud features. You will not be able to use NDI. That codec is not installed, but you can definitely use Dropbox, Atmosphere, and Frame.io if you are using the internet dongle. Yeah, great feature to point out.
Yeah, no, great feature to add.
Yeah,
And then once we go into the Ninja TX Go, that's where we add those Wi-Fi connectivity
right.
to be able to do all of the Connect features, correct?
Exactly. And those Wi-Fi 6 antenna ports are now on the TX Go. And this gives you kind of the freedom to be very mobile, right? You're using the antennas on there. So you're connecting to the network wirelessly. You don't need to be tethered using that Ethernet dongle.
That is great to hear. And then again, with the flagship, with the Ninja TX, we add the 12G SDI in and out, and you add the air glue. Can you tell us a little bit about, for those that don't know, what air glue
Yeah.
is?
Air glue is actually a pretty amazing tool that we have built into the monitor. So a lot of traditional ways to get time code, right, is you're jamming the cameras, you're jam syncing different time code devices. But actually, you can use the air glue to set your own time code, and then you can send that to the other monitor. So let's say you're in a multi-camera workflow, and
Mhm.
you have three cameras, and all three of them have a Ninja TX on them. You can record and share you can set the time code on one and send that to all three. So now all three of your records are sharing the same time code. So it really is a great feature.
Now that is definitely a great feature. Okay, and another thing that I wanted to ask is why would somebody want to use a monitor and a recorder over just, recording internally into their camera and using just a monitor?
Sure. I mean, you absolutely can use the camera recording. One thing that we see is a lot of these smaller mirrorless cameras have tiny little displays, right? So when you go
Yeah.
to us, you have this nice, super bright 1500 nit touchscreen display, right? You have all your tools. So you can see critical focus, right? That, focus peaking on the 5-inch monitor. Also, maybe if you are on a camera, you're kind of stuck with their internal codec, right? If you go
Mhm.
to an Atomos monitor recorder, you can have H.265, you can shoot in ProRes RAW, you can use DNX, ProRes LT. So many of these different codecs that are standard for editing tools. And then when you mix multiple cameras and they all have kind of different internal recording codecs, that's
Yep.
where if you have multiple Atomos monitors on set, you can say, look, we're all shooting today in Apple ProRes RAW. And that's what all three monitors will be recording, or ProRes LT. You pick the codec for the production that's right for you.
That is lots of great reasons, and there's a couple more on here, so if people want to look at this
Sure.
slide, they can when it was full screen. Um, the other thing that is new and exciting that is coming from Atomos is the Shogun AV19. Now, this will be shipping next month, but we did say at the top of the show you will have the Shogun AV19 at your booth at NAB, correct?
Yes, James, we're going to 100% have this. This is a really exciting new monitor. One of the main features to really point up is this is a 19-inch 4K touchscreen HDR display, right? So, from the Atomos side, I guess this is our first 4K touchscreen display that we have to the market, and it's rack mountable. So, um, yeah, we will
That
definitely
that
be showing it
is
at NAB.
that is great, and highly recommend it if people are going to NAB. Check out the Atomos booth, check out the Shogun AV19 and all of the ninjas, and go up to them, touch them, and see what they can do. Why don't you tell us about some of the key features available on the Shogun AV19?
Yeah, so some of the features, like we said, the main reason for having this display or this monitor is going to be for rack mountable, right? So we want to make sure that we know it's going in a rack, whether it's in a studio or you are going to be sending it in a fly pack. This monitor has the ability to shoot in 8K ProRes RAW. We also have the CFexpress slot up front. There are 12G SDI inputs on the back, so you can be sending in a single 4K image and now actually viewing in 4K, which is amazing. Or you could be in quad mode where you would be sending in four HD SDI 3G signals. You'll be able to do then a live cut and switch. So you'd be recording four ISOs, and then that fifth line cut would be in the record as well. And all that would be on the CFexpress B card. So that's very nice.
No, I think that is great. That's a lot of power all in this one box. You mentioned the CF Express Type B card slot on the front of the Shogun AV19.
Mhm.
Can you tell us some of the other features that are available on the front view, in particular, the user-defined function buttons that are on the bottom right of the front of the screen?
Yeah, no, that's a huge new feature for this monitor. Of course, it's a touchscreen monitor, right? So you can use your fingers to navigate through the menus. But in the studio, or you want to keep, the display very clean because it is a nice 4K HDR monitor. We have six now user definable buttons up front. So F1, you press and hold, you can select that for being, let's say, your record start stop. When you go to F2, you can use that for your focus peaking. Three you can use for zebras or vector scopes. So all these are custom for your workflow. And all you have the ability to really navigate through these hotkeys on the front, these front buttons without actually touching the screen. So that's very nice.
No, it's definitely very nice. We're talking about picking the right ninja for your workflow. Well, now you can pick the right buttons for your workflow too. If you know that you don't need to worry about focus peaking, don't make that one of your buttons.
Right.
Um, Giving the customer the ability to control their own settings. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about the rear view? Because you got pretty much every kind of connector that you could imagine on the back of this thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, now we have full size XLRs for audio. So that's professional. You don't have to have a dongle for that or an adapter. It's full size XLR. We have for power, we have 4-pin XLR DC in. We also have a way to power 4-pin XLR if you're using like an external battery, a V-Lock, or an Anton Bauer. We have HDMI in and out. So if you were recording ProRes RAW over an HDMI camera, you can do that. And we have 12G, two 12G inputs. If you are sending in one single 4K image, you can do that. And if you're going to be in the quad mode, you send in four. We do have also sync for as well, and the gigabyte Ethernet for connecting to the cloud or using NDI. So if you are going to be using NDI, this does not have built-in Wi-Fi antennas like we see in some of our other monitors. This is strictly meant to have an Ethernet connection built in. So that is something good to note.
No, that is fantastic. Being able to record up to four inputs plus a fifth
Yeah.
for live switching is just fantastic. Again, all in one box. And can you tell us about some of the use cases for the Shogun AV19?
Yeah, I mean, let's just say you're on set and you just want to be using the Shogun AV in kind of a rack mount portable fly pack. And just as a director's viewfinder, you are now getting a 4K, you know, ultra bright HDR image coming into that display in single
Hmm.
mode.
Yeah.
If you are doing like a live concert and that's kind of your workflow or your application there, that's where the live switching capabilities come in. If you are in an NDI workflow and you just want to be sending or receiving an NDI stream, you can do that as well. So really, it's a super versatile monitor.
Absolutely. I see this being in a lot of different productions being used for a lot of various different reasons. Now, John, we keep
Yeah.
saying that you and the Atomos team are going to be at NAB, which is great. You're going to be
Yeah.
at booth C4731. You can check out all of the Ninjas there, the Ninja Raw, the Ninja TX Go, the Ninja TX, and of course, you can see the Shogun AV19 as well. John, whenever we have a guest on the show, of course, I want to thank them for joining us, but I also want to give them the final word. So, is there any lasting remarks that you'd like to give to our audience?
No, thanks, James. I mean, we appreciate all the support. Like I said, I will personally be at NAB doing demos at the camera bench. We'll definitely have other Atomos representatives there, but come by and see me, and I'll walk through all these for you in person live.
All right, great. Thank you so much for joining us, John. To our audience, thank you for watching today, and we will see you next Tuesday at about 3 o'clock Eastern. See you then.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.